The article I will be discussing is How to Supercharge Struggling Readers with Brain-Based Strategies by Dr. Benita. Through the advances of brain imaging, neuroscientists have begun to learn about how the brain processes new information and transfers the learning from short-term to long-term memory. This information regarding how the brain learns to read can help teachers to create effective, research-based lessons and activities. There are two key ideas from neuroscience pertaining to reading that were consistently found in this article. 1. The brain attends to novelty, movement, intensity, and contrast. And 2. Neural connections are built through the repetition of skills. Effective brain-based instruction requires different instructional strategies for individuals based on such variables as prior learning, experience, and a select set of cognitive neuroscience principles. I will discuss some of the most important information on how the brain learns, how the brain learns to read, and specific instructional strategies targeted at teaching the components of reading instruction. We have learned throughout this class that the ability to read well is a prerequisite skill that every student needs to succeed in school and every adult needs to be successful in their everyday life. And the question of how to best teach students to read has been a debatable topic for over 100 years among educators. And, as we all know, not all students learn to read easily. And in fact, many struggle to acquire the skills to become fluent readers throughout the course of their years in school. Similar to learning to play a musical instrument, reading is a multi-step process. The more training and practice you put into these skills, the higher the level of skill development you will achieve. Decoding words is just the first step in the acquisition of reading proficiency. Once a student is familiar with the letter-sound relationships in reading, students must then learn to use this process at an automatic level to read with fluency and develop comprehension of what was read. To assist this learning, the brain needs novelty, which is understanding that the brain needs new and different instructional activities, and the student needs repetition to reinforce the necessary skills pertinent to reading. As the brain has an attentional bias for high contrast and novelty from visual sources, the teacher should try to incorporate project-based assignments, computers, videos, books, cameras, art supplies, visual aids, posters, or graphic organizers whenever possible into their reading and literature lessons. When the repetition of skills when reading are practiced, neurons send dendrites to other neurons, creating denser neural connections. This repetition of correctly performed skills builds these dendrites and has implications for all the components of reading. Regular practice of skills will improve phonemic awareness, phonics skills, vocabulary development, fluency, and comprehension by changing the architecture of the student's brain. Reading is the development of the brain, making connections between thousands of neurons through the process of rehearsal and practice. Inside our brain is a region that is termed the visual word form. Activation of this area begins in the visual processing portion of the brain, followed by neural activity in the temporal region that extracts the visual word form. Neuroscientists believe that as we learn to read, and after numerous times sounding out a word, the brain stores the word in the visual word form areas of the brain in the form of a picture. Brain research has supported an explicit phonetic approach to teaching decoding. Although phonics is more important for some children than for others, all children can benefit from being taught directly how to break up spoken words into small units and how letter represents sounds. For students whose home environments support literacy, the decoding process will occur far more easily and successfully than students whose home environments do not support the development of literacy. For these students, the method of beginning reading instruction is of critical importance. The article cited an interesting study that found that somewhere between 86 and 98% of children's recorded vocabulary matched that of their parents. They also found that by the age of 3, children living in professional families had a recorded vocabulary size of 1,116 words, whereas children in working class families' vocabulary size was just 749 words. This difference in the vocabulary of children entering school puts children of working families in a catch-up position as they begin to learn to read. However, programs such as Enriched Early Childhood can help students increase their vocabulary, which will lessen the existing gap in vocabulary. Let's discuss reading fluency for a minute. Fluent readers can decode, recognize, and comprehend the meaning of text all at the same time. The responsibility model is an accepted 4-step process that will increase reading fluency. Step 1 of this model has the teacher model a reading passage with fluency. In Step 2, students choral read the passage with the teacher. Step 3 follows when students choral read without the teacher. And finally, Step 4, the students read along independently after practicing the passage. The last important point I wish to discuss is reading comprehension. Reading comprehension can be fully attained when students have mastered the alphabetic principle, masterfully decode words, and read with fluency so their working memory is freed up for the task of comprehending the text. Students with strong knowledge about the world and a wide range of things bring to the reading process prior knowledge, and teachers can incorporate activities that activate and build prior knowledge that will ultimately improve vocabulary and reading comprehension. When teachers model comprehension strategies, they show students how to break down the text to extract meaning. Effective comprehension strategies include visualizing, predicting, active questioning, making text connections, reading anticipation guides, story maps, and creating and completing graphic organizers. To recap, learning to read is not a linear endeavor because the cognitive elements of reading support and reinforce each other. As letters are sounded out into words, the meaning of these words comes into play. A well-developed vocabulary supports the development of decoding, fluency, and comprehension skills. Teachers can then use this information to create effective, research-based lessons, activities, and assessments. Most importantly, the ability to read often results in students developing the desire to read independently, and good readers very often become avid readers with a passion for reading that lasts a lifetime.